Hello, my loves, and welcome back to an episode of Embracing Power and Potential. I hope you have all had the best week ever. I just want to get straight into the episode of today. So there's no weekly update from me. Everything is going smoothly. Life is great. So this is the second to last episode of the Laws of the Universe series. We have already covered the first 8 laws, and I will recap these all for you at the end of the episode. But today's focus is the law of relativity and the law of polarity. So, let's get into it. Welcome, listeners, to Embracing Power and Potential, your go-to podcast where we travel through the realms of personal growth, mindset mastery, and fear-conquering strategies to help achieve your greatest desires. I'm your host, Portia, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this transformative experience. If you're ready to unleash your authentic power and elevate your life, you're in the right place. Join me and our special guests as we embark on conversations that will broaden your horizons and enrich your journey. So, sit back and immerse yourself in these unmatched discussions. It's time to expand your mind and your life. The law of relativity, the 10th law in the laws of the universe. This law states that nothing is inherently good or bad. Everything is relative and depends on your perspective. So this means that everything in your life just is. Because remember, everything is energy and everything is vibrating at a specific frequency. But it's neutral until we attach a meaning to it. I can use a broad example, and I'm going to use money for an example. Money is a neutral resource. It's literally just energy. But then our emotional attachment to it determines whether it is good or bad. Like some people say, money is the root of all evil. For some people, money stresses them out. For some people, money feels like it's hard to even be in reach or hard to come by. So that gives us some negative feelings, but that's because of the story that we have attached to money. But it can go the other way as well, and it can be shed in a positive light, and money can be used for good experiences or coming in overflow and abundance. And money is a resource for your happiness if you're using it correctly, and it's because of the positive story that you have attached yourself with money. So it's whatever you perceive will be your reality. And this goes for everything in your life. This law teaches you to stop comparing yourself to others, because comparison only exists when we assign like a hierarchy, putting other people on a pedestal and thinking, they're just lucky, or, they were born into that wealth, or whatever it is. Instead of taking that away and looking that person as just a neutral person. You're no better or worse than anyone else. It's how you perceive yourself and your experience of life. And then you compare that to someone else can make you feel more negative. So when you bring the focus back on you and you stop comparing yourself to others, you actually realize that your life is actually what you make of it. It can be amazing. You may not have the nice fancy things that others may have yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible. It's how you perceive your experience. determines how you feel about your life. This goes the same for the challenges that you have in your life. Something that feels hard right now may be your biggest strength later on, because it's how we relate our experiences to our life. So when you are in a challenge, a reframe that I love to make, because remember, anything that you are experiencing in your life, how your mindset is around that, whether it's a challenge that you can grow from or a challenge that you're going to be defeated by, is all up to you, and it's all up to your mindset. So the best reframe that I always use, especially in challenges or in harder times in my life, what I say is, what if this isn't happening to me, but for me? So you're looking at any positives that can come from this experience. Even though it may be a shitty time right now, how is this going to be for me? What are the lessons that I can learn from this? How can I grow from this? Maybe things didn't happen the way you wanted to, so it could work out better. So it's all about how you perceive your life and your situation, because perspective is everything. And shifting your lens changes your emotional experience to it. Because remember, everything is neutral. Everything in our life is just neutral, but then we put an emotional attachment to it, which determines whether it's good or bad. So being present really helps with this. When you're just present and genuinely focused on your own energy and very intentional with your energy, you're less bothered by things, less reactive by things. So there's usually less emotional attachment to things, especially irrational attachment to things. There's less reacting and blowing up. You're more grounded in your own energy. So things don't actually affect you as much. And this has been really important in my life because, I have been a very reactive person in my past. So just, looking at it from a neutral lens and being like, how is this serving me right now? Honestly helps me so much and just keeps my energy in check and not stressing about little things or overreacting to things that you can't change. So another example of this, before we get into the next law, is basically if you fail at something, not looking at it as a failure, but looking at it as feedback and perhaps redirection, to try another way, maybe try another thing altogether, so looking at it from a different lens, zooming out and observing the situation neutrally, not in desperate energy, this thing's gotta work, but instead taking yourself away from it and asking yourself, what is this trying to teach me? And importantly, finding gratitude, even in the discomfort, or especially in the discomfort, because that is how you rise your vibration and rise your frequency in the moment of a challenge. Because when you are feeling, stressed or uncomfortable, you are lowering your vibration. So in the moment, feeling grateful for what this is teaching you instantly rises your frequency. Ever feel like you're meant for more, but something keeps holding you back? Maybe you've read the books, set the goals, but deep down, doubt still creeps in. It's not just about working harder, it's about rewriting your mindset for success. I help ambitious young people break past limiting beliefs, step into their power, and create the life they know they are meant for. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living big, book in your free discovery call with me today. My website will be linked in the show notes, or you can find me in my Instagram bio. Embracing Power and Potential Coaching Services. A vision to empower 10,000 young people to create a life they truly desire. Now, the next law, the law of polarity. Now, think of this law as the yin and yang symbol, light and darkness, or the sun and the moon. You can't have light without darkness. This law states that everything has an opposite, and both are necessary to fully experience and understand life. This is probably one of the most important laws because it really explains our experience of life. So let's get into it so you can understand what I mean. Everything in life has an opposite. If you think about light and darkness, up and down, or love and fear, success and failure. Opposites are not enemies, but they define each other because you wouldn't know joy without sadness, right? Or you wouldn't get any clarity without having confusion first. So you need one with the other. Like for when people say, when they hit their rock bottom, that's when they reach enlightenment because they are polar opposites, but you need one sometimes to have the other. This law helps you see that contrast exists to create clarity. When you're in a mental fog, when you don't know what to do, that means that clarity is on the other side. That means that you have the ability, you will find your answers when you are stuck. And this also goes for, when you experience the things that you don't want in life, when you have bad exes or shitty jobs that you didn't enjoy at all, then you can refine what you do want from your life. You can refine the sorts of relationships that you will accept into your life. You can refine the sorts of jobs that you want to go for. So polarity in life is so important because it shows you what works and what doesn't. We all have a light and darkness inside of us. Some call it the ego self, but we can't have one without the other. Oh, and I can go into a whole another episode about that and shadow work and embracing, all parts of ourselves. But I will leave that for another episode. So definitely stay tuned for that coming soon. But if you think about it, contrast is a compass. The contrast of light and dark is guiding you towards your enlightenment. When you go through dark times, people say, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And just a simple example, that I've sort of touched on is when you're feeling lost or unmotivated, often this precedes to huge breakthroughs. I know it did in my life when I was in Melbourne and having the worst time of my life. I literally couldn't even look at myself in the mirror because I just wasn't even happy with the person I was. But that's when everything changed for me because I reached a point where I could no longer go that way. And I seen the darkness and the depths of, what my life could look like if I still kept going down that path and choosing unhealthy habits and not being true to my who I was at my core. And that led me to turning my whole situation around, literally with my mindset. I didn't even have anything tangible at the time to really, create or experience, but I changed my whole experience with the way that I looked at things, with my perspective, like in the other law, because like I said, everything in our life that we experience is our perspective of it. Without polarity, growth would not exist. When these low moments happen, that's what make these highs of life feel incredible, because I know how fucking shit I felt when I was at the lowest point in my life. So now, when I'm living intentionally and confident in who I am and genuinely love myself and my life, I see both ends of it, and it's such a big difference. But I wouldn't know how good this is if I didn't see the darkness first, if I didn't go through those hard times. So you can never have one without the other. And I mean, you don't have to go to the extremes, but we are all on our own journey. So just know that if you are going through a struggle, if you aren't happy with your situation right now, number one, change your perspective of it. And number two, know that there's always a polarity shift and things are always going to be better on the other side, because there's always another side. So for an example for this one, something that a nice mindset reframe that I like to use when I'm going through a challenge or just a hard time in my life, looking at that and asking myself, what is the opposite of what I'm experiencing? And how can I move towards that? So if you're feeling heartbreak, if you're experiencing, a breakup, or, going through a really tough time because you've just come out of a relationship or getting over your ex, asking yourself, what is the opposite of what I'm experiencing? The opposite of heartbreak is love. How can I move toward that? How can you start showing up for yourself? How can you start loving yourself? Can you surround yourself with people that make you feel happy, that you love, friends and family? Because the more you embrace both sides, the more peace and power you have in the middle. Because life is really black and white with polarity. But there is this sort of a grey area, the in-between times. And this is where you usually feel the most lost, because when you are going through a really hard time at the immense suffering of your life, when you've hit rock bottom, really that's your comfort zone. That's where you're comfortable. So when you actually decide to move out of that and to change your life and to grow from this experience, this is when you enter the sort of grey area, because you don't know who you are, because you are moving into a new identity. But when you embrace the light and the darkness, knowing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that there is another side to your situation, it just makes it easier to navigate, knowing what you don't want to go back to and who you want to become. Because you are the meaning maker. You can create your life, and that is your true power. So when things come up in life, bad traffic, literally anything that you experience in your life, remember that nothing is good or bad until you decide that it is. So the next time that you face a challenge, look at it as contrast. And remember that this is not a setback, it's just refinement. It's just redirection to something better. And definitely send me in any voice notes, DM me if you have tried and integrated any of these laws into your life so far. I love hearing your guys' stories, and I actually might start sharing them as well soon on the podcast, and maybe, going off some of the questions that you ask me and basing some episodes around that. But I hope you enjoyed this episode today. I love making the Laws of the Universe series because it's just another way to really integrate and understand, energy and the universe manifestation, because it's all working. It's all working, it's all moving, it's all happening, whether we believe it, whether we know it or not. So you may as well use it to your advantage. I love you guys so much. I hope you have the best week, and I will see you in our next episode. Love you. Bye.